If you grew up in the 1970s, certain songs are woven into your memories. They played on AM radio during car rides. They came through tinny speakers at roller rinks and school dances. They were the soundtrack to your childhood and teenage years. Growing up in the 1970s means you remember these songs. Number 10. Stayin' Alive by Bee Gees. Saturday Night in 1977 meant one thing: disco, and no song captured that era quite like Stayin' Alive by the Bee Gees. The moment those opening drums and bass kicked in, you knew you were about to hear something special. Barry Gibb's falsetto became the sound of the late 70s, distinctive and impossible to mistake for anyone else. The song came from the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, which became a cultural phenomenon that transcended music. John Travolta's white suit and that opening walk down the Brooklyn street became inseparable from the music. Every kid tried to recreate that strut, swinging their arms and stepping with exaggerated confidence. The movie made disco mainstream, taking it from underground clubs to suburban living rooms and school gymnasiums across America. The Bee Gees had written the song specifically for the film after meeting with Robert Stigwood, the producer. They delivered several tracks that would define the soundtrack. Stayin' Alive, with its driving beat and gritty urban energy, perfectly captured the feeling of young people trying to make it in New York City. Released in December 1977, the single went to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in February 1978 and stayed there for 4 weeks. The Saturday Night Fever soundtrack became the best-selling soundtrack album at that time, eventually selling over 40 million copies worldwide. Radio stations played it constantly. You heard it at every party, every dance, every gathering where music played. The Bee Gees had been around since the 1960s, starting as a pop group in Australia before moving to England and having hits with songs like Massachusetts and To Love Somebody. But Saturday Night Fever transformed them from successful artists into the biggest group in the world. They couldn't walk down the street without being mobbed. Their music defined the second half of the 70s. That distinctive rhythm, with its exact tempo of around 100 beats per minute, became so iconic that decades later, medical professionals would use it to teach the correct tempo for performing CPR. But back in the 70s, it was simply the song that got everyone on the dance floor, the one that made you feel alive, confident, and ready to take on the world. Number 9. Hotel California by Eagles. In 1976, the Eagles released Hotel California, and rock radio was never quite the same. The song opened with one of the most recognizable guitar intros ever recorded. Don Felder's 12-string guitar created an atmosphere that was both beautiful and haunting, immediately transporting listeners to a different place. The song told a mysterious story about a traveler stopping at a strange hotel somewhere in California. The lyrics painted vivid pictures: colitas, pink champagne on ice, mirrors on the ceiling. The traveler discovers he's trapped in this luxurious prison, where you could check out anytime you liked, but you could never leave. The imagery was cinematic and unsettling. People spent hours debating what it all meant. Was it about drug addiction and the inability to escape? The excesses of the music industry and how success traps artists? California culture and the dark side of the American dream? The band members gave different answers over the years, which only added to the mystique. Don Henley once said, "It was about the loss of innocence and the dark underbelly of success." Hotel California clocked in at over 6.5 minutes, which was long for a single by commercial radio standards. But radio stations played the whole thing anyway without cutting a second. Nobody wanted to edit it, especially once that dual guitar solo came in at the end. Joe Walsh and Don Felder trading leads for nearly 2 minutes became the stuff of rock and roll legend. Guitar players everywhere tried to learn both parts. The recording process itself was meticulous. The band spent 8 months working on the album, with most of that time focused on getting every detail perfect. They recorded the basic tracks at the record plant in Los Angeles, then spent weeks overdubbing and refining. The guitar solo alone required multiple takes from both Felder and Walsh before they captured the magic. The song peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May 1977 and stayed there for a week. The album of the same name sold over 32 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling albums in history. If you were a teenager in the late 70s, you probably had that album cover memorized. The pink hotel at sunset that somehow looked both inviting and sinister, just like the song itself. The Eagles had started as a country rock band earlier in the decade with songs like Take It Easy and Peaceful Easy Feeling, but by the time Hotel California came out, they'd evolved into something bigger and more complex. This song represented the peak of their artistic achievement and commercial success, capturing both the allure and the darkness of Southern California life. Number 8. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody hit in late 1975 and immediately divided people into two camps: those who thought it was brilliant and those who thought it was too weird. If you were a kid or teenager when it came out, you probably thought it was the coolest thing you'd ever heard. The song ran nearly 6 minutes long. It had no chorus. It jumped from a ballad section to an operatic middle to a hard rock ending. Freddie Mercury sang about killing a man. Then there were harmonies about Scaramouche and Galileo, and then guitars came crashing in. It shouldn't have worked, but somehow it did. The record label didn't want to release it as a single. They said it was too long and too strange. But Queen insisted, and a DJ named Kenny Everett played it repeatedly on his radio show in London. The phones lit up. People had to hear it again. Bohemian Rhapsody went to number 1 in the UK and stayed there for 9 weeks. In the United States, it reached number 9. The accompanying video, which showed the band members' faces emerging from darkness, became one of the first true music videos. Years before MTV existed, Queen understood the power of visual presentation. If you were in school in 1976, you probably remember kids arguing about which part of the song was best. Some loved the piano ballad opening, others waited for the opera section. The headbangers lived for the rock part at the end. But everyone agreed it was unlike anything else on the radio. The song became even more iconic in 1992 when it appeared in Wayne's World, introducing it to a new generation. But those who grew up in the 70s remember when it was brand new and absolutely revolutionary. Number 7. September by Earth. Wind and Fire. Earth, Wind and Fire released September in 1978, and it became an instant feel-good classic. From the opening horn blast, you knew you were about to have a good time. The song radiated pure joy and celebration. Badi Ya became one of the most memorable nonsense phrases in music history. Morris White, the band's leader, originally wrote actual lyrics for that part, but during recording, he sang Badi Ya as a placeholder, planning to replace it later with real words. The band loved it so much they kept it. Sometimes the spontaneous choices become the most memorable ones. The song celebrated the 21st night of September, a date that has become synonymous with the song. People still celebrate it every year on social media. But Maurice White later admitted he picked that date simply because it sounded good in the song. It had no special meaning beyond the music. September reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of Earth, Wind and Fire's signature songs. The horn section, the vocals, the groove, everything came together perfectly. It was impossible to hear it without moving. If you went to a school dance, a wedding, or any party in the late 70s, You probably heard September. The song represented everything optimistic about that era. Life was good, the music was great, and everyone should get up and dance. Earth, Wind & Fire combined funk, soul, disco, rock, jazz, and Latin music into something entirely their own. They were one of the most successful bands of the decade, and September captured everything that made them special. Number 6, Piano Man by Billy Joel. Billy Joel released Piano Man in 1973, and while it only reached number 25 on the charts, it became one of the most beloved songs of the decade. If you grew up in the 70s, you heard it constantly on FM radio. The song told stories about the people Billy Joel met while playing piano at a bar in Los Angeles. There was John at the bar, Paul the real estate novelist, and the waitress practicing politics. Each verse painted a picture of ordinary people carrying dreams they probably wouldn't achieve. That harmonica intro became instantly recognizable. Joel played it himself, holding the harmonica in a holder around his neck while playing the piano. The song captured the melancholy of lounge performers playing for tips and hoping something better would come along. Piano Man was autobiographical. Joel really had worked as a lounge pianist under the name Bill Martin at a bar called The Executive Room in Los Angeles. He went there after his first album flopped, trying to make ends meet while figuring out his next move. The experience gave him the material for his breakthrough song. The chorus became something people sang together. By the time Joel got to the line about making you feel all right, entire audiences would join in. It was communal and comforting, a song about loneliness that somehow made you feel less alone. Piano Man became Billy Joel's signature song. He closes nearly every concert with it. But back in 1973 and 1974, it was just a song about a piano player trying to get by, hoping his music could make things a little better for the people listening. Number 5, Imagine by John Lennon. Imagine all the people. John Lennon released Imagine in 1971, just over a year after the Beatles broke up. The song opened with a simple piano melody and Lennon asking us to imagine a world without heaven, without countries, without possessions. It was idealistic and beautiful and controversial all at once. Some people thought the song was anti-religious. Others heard it as a peace anthem. Lennon called it virtually the Communist Manifesto, though he said it was accepted more because it was sugar-coated. The soft, gentle music made the radical lyrics easier to swallow. Imagine reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States. The B-side was another Lennon song called It's So Hard, but nobody remembers that one. Imagine became the song that defined Lennon's solo career and his vision for a better world. If you were in elementary school in the early 70s, you might have had a teacher play this song in class. It became an anthem for peace during a time when the Vietnam War was still raging. The song offered a vision of humanity living together without the things that divided us. Imagine all the people. The piano in Lennon's home, a white Steinway, became as famous as the song itself. Years later, George Michael bought that piano at auction and used it to record. But in 1971, it was just the instrument Lennon used to share his most idealistic dream. Lennon's wife Yoko Ono contributed to the song's creation, though she wasn't credited initially. Lennon later acknowledged her influence, noting that the concept came from her poetry. The song became one of the most covered and performed songs in history. Number 4, Let It Be by the Beatles. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary. The Beatles released Let It Be in March 1970, just weeks before they officially announced their breakup in April. The song felt like a farewell, a benediction from the band that had defined the 1960s. Even though it had been recorded over a year earlier during the tense Get Back sessions, the timing made it feel prophetic. Paul McCartney wrote the song after having a dream about his mother, Mary, who had died of cancer when he was just 14 years old. In the dream, she came to him during a particularly stressful period and told him to let it be. to not worry so much. He woke up feeling comforted and immediately went to the piano to write the song. It became one of the most personal compositions of his entire career, a message from beyond offering peace. The single went to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in April 1970, giving the Beatles their 20th and final #1 hit in America. Billy Preston, a gifted musician the band had known since their Hamburg days, played the electric piano that gives the song its gospel feel. His presence marked one of the few times the Beatles officially collaborated with another musician on their records, and he received credit on the label. The production of Let It Be was complicated. The original version was produced by George Martin, the Beatles' longtime producer, in January 1969. But a year later, Phil Spector was brought in to produce the final album, and he created a different mix with added orchestration and choir. McCartney hated Spector's version, feeling it was overproduced, but that became the version everyone heard. Let It Be became a song people turned to during difficult times over the decades that followed. The message was simple and universal. When things are hard, when life feels overwhelming, sometimes you have to accept circumstances and let them be. Worrying won't change anything. There's wisdom in acceptance and peace in surrender. McCartney's reassuring voice made it feel like everything might actually be okay. If you were a Beatles fan in 1970, hearing this song was bittersweet. The greatest band in the world was ending, and this felt like their goodbye. They'd been together for a decade, changing music and culture, and now it was over. McCartney's gentle piano and comforting words provided solace during what felt like the end of an era. The Beatles were gone, but at least they'd left this behind. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. The song later gave its name to the documentary and album released in May 1970. Capturing those final difficult recording sessions. Decades later, in 2021, Peter Jackson created Get Back, a new documentary using restored footage from those same sessions, giving fans another look at the band's final days together. But in spring 1970, Let It Be was simply the Beatles' last gift to their fans. A message of peace and acceptance when everyone needed it most. And I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary. #3, Dancing Queen by ABBA. ABBA released Dancing Queen in August 1976, and it became their biggest hit worldwide. The Swedish group had been successful in Europe since winning the Eurovision Song Contest in 1974 with Waterloo, but this song made them international superstars. That opening piano arpeggio, played by Benny Andersson, signaled the start of something irresistible. The song celebrated a young girl out dancing on a Friday night, feeling the beat, being young and sweet and 17. It captured pure joy and freedom without any darkness or complexity. The production was immaculate, with layers of vocals and instruments creating Phil Spector's famous wall of sound, but applied to disco, it was sophisticated and danceable at the same time. Dancing Queen went to #1 in the United States in April 1977. Making ABBA the first Swedish group to top the American charts. It also reached #1 in over a dozen other countries, including the UK, Australia, Canada, and throughout Europe. The song became synonymous with disco at its most polished and perfect, proving that European pop could compete with anything coming out of America. If you were at a school dance or roller rink in 1977, you definitely heard Dancing Queen multiple times every session. The song brought everyone to the floor without exception. Even people who didn't usually dance, who stood against the wall watching others, found themselves moving to it. There was something universal about its appeal that transcended age, background, and musical taste. ABBA wrote the song after hearing George McRae's 1974 disco hit Rock Your Baby, and being inspired by the combination of strings and a strong beat. They spent months perfecting the arrangement and recording process, putting down layer after layer until they had something that sparkled and shimmered. The attention to detail, from the harmonies to the orchestration, paid off spectacularly. The group performed Dancing Queen when they met King Carl XVI Gustaf and Queen Sylvia of Sweden at a royal gala in Stockholm in June 1976, before the song was even officially released to the public. That performance became legendary in Sweden. Here was a pop group performing for actual royalty, singing about a dancing queen, and everyone in the room knew they'd created something truly special. The king and queen reportedly loved it, making the moment even more perfect. Number 2. I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor. Gloria Gaynor released I Will Survive in October 1978, and it became an instant anthem. The song started quietly with Gaynor's voice vulnerable and uncertain, but by the chorus, she was belting out one of the most empowering messages in disco history. The song was originally the B-side to a track called Substitute, but DJ S started flipping the record and playing I Will Survive instead. The response was overwhelming. People connected with the message of survival and strength after heartbreak. The label quickly made it the A-side. I Will Survive went to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March 1979. It won the Grammy Award for Best Disco Recording, the only year that category existed. The song transcended disco to become something bigger, an anthem for anyone who had overcome adversity. The lyrics spoke to heartbreak and betrayal, but also to resilience. After being devastated by a breakup, the narrator finds strength and independence. The message resonated far beyond romantic relationships. It became a song for anyone facing difficult times and coming out stronger. If you were in junior high or high school in 1979, you remember this song being everywhere. At parties, at dances, on the radio constantly. Girls sang it with particular passion, but everyone connected with the determination and defiance in Gaynor's voice. Gaynor actually recorded the song while recovering from major back surgery. She had fallen on stage and hurt herself badly. While recuperating, she went into the studio in a back brace and recorded I Will Survive. The song's message of survival wasn't just about romance. It was personal for her too. The song became a defining moment of late 70s disco, proving the genre could deliver powerful messages alongside great beats. Decades later, it remains one of the most recognizable and beloved songs of the era. Number 1. Take Me Home, Country Roads by John Denver.
Country roads, take me home.
John Denver released Take Me Home, Country Roads in April 1971, and it became his breakthrough hit. The song celebrated West Virginia with its mountains and winding roads, creating a picture so vivid you could see it even if you'd never been there. The opening guitar and Denver's clear, pure voice established an instant mood. The song felt like home, like comfort, like belonging. Even people who'd never set foot in West Virginia connected with the feeling of longing for a place that represented safety and peace. Take Me Home, Country Roads reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, held out of the top spot by Carole King's It's Too Late. But in terms of lasting impact and recognition, Denver's song became one of the most beloved hits of the 70s. Denver didn't write the song alone. Bill Danoff and Taffy Nivert, a married couple and fellow musicians, wrote most of it with Denver contributing and helping refine it. They wrote much of it driving on Clopper Road in Maryland, inspired by a road sign for West Virginia. The song wasn't based on actual West Virginia roads, but on the feeling those words evoked.
Misty taste of moonshine, teardrop in my...
If you were a kid in the early 70s, you probably sang this song at summer camp or on school field trips. It became one of those songs everyone knew by heart. The sing-along chorus made it perfect for group singing. The song became West Virginia's official state song in 2014, though some locals pointed out that both the Shenandoah River and the Blue Ridge Mountains are actually in Virginia, not West Virginia. But geography didn't matter. The song captured a feeling, and that was more important than exact locations. John Denver became one of the biggest stars of the 70s with his wholesome image and clear voice. Take Me Home, Country Roads launched that success and remained his most recognizable song throughout his career.
Country roads, take me home.
The 1970s gave us a soundtrack that defined a generation. These songs weren't just background music. They were part of growing up, part of learning who you were, part of figuring out the world. They played at pivotal moments and ordinary ones. They connected you to friends and helped you understand your feelings. If you grew up in that decade, these songs are more than just music. They're time machines that transport you back to roller rinks and basement parties, to long car rides and lazy summer afternoons. They remind you what it felt like to be young when these songs were new. If these songs brought back memories, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. What other songs from the 70s do you remember? Which ones take you right back to your childhood? Let us know in the comments below.